Hey, it's Azrielle Lawless, and once again, you have stumbled into Hella Vella and found yourself another Lawless interview. And it's me, as of course, and here with Sadie Hammer. How are you today, Sadie?
It's Cady. I apologize.
That's my no, don't apologize. I asked you before we got started. I said it
Yes,
right once, and then I
you
twisted it
did.
and said it how I wanted
It's
to say it.
it's totally fine. I am so used to people messing up my name to start with. It's about 75% catty, and then there's really only 10 to 15% that actually get it right on the first try. So don't worry
Now,
about it.
this young author's name is spelled Cady, which is why I just insisted on absolutely smashing it. So, anyway, it's Cady, and we're here with Cady Hammer, and she is a Vella author. She's also already an author for novels, YA novels out there. We're going to hear all about it and what she thinks about good old Vella and what could be done to improve it, like we always ask. But here we go. We got to start somewhere. And the very first question that I always ask everybody, Cady, is when did you get started writing?
So I got started writing from a very young age. I started writing my first sort of novella type story when I was in fifth grade. I really wanted to be, I knew from very early that I wanted to be a published author. I was inspired by Andrew Clemens's A School Story, which follows the story of this middle school age girl who writes this book and wants to get it published. So she writes under a pen name and her friend poses as her literary agent, and they play tag team with her mom's publishing company because she doesn't want her mom to know that it's her. And so it was a fantastic story. And what Andrew Clements does is he walks readers through the publishing process in a very sort of very easy to read, understandable way, particularly for a middle grade reader. And so I just absolutely adored that book, and I really wanted to. I loved the whole process, and I wanted to be a published author someday. I started writing. Kind of dabbled in various genres as I kind of experimented with story ideas, trying to figure out, where my home genre was going to be. I did a little bit of middle grade fantasy, a little bit of YA contemporary romance, before finally settling on young adult fantasy at my senior year of high school, going into college, and that's when I tackled National Novel Writing Month during my first semester of college, which was a decision that I made and a very interesting decision to make. Um, and the rest is sort of history. It was the first idea that I was able to carry sort of all the way through. And that book became the basis for my debut trilogy, which I'm just about to wrap up at the end of this year.
Wow, well, that's wonderful. So you just hit it hard and fast. So did you major in what did you major in? Creative writing in college?
No, actually, I am a history major. I was a history major in undergrad, and I'm currently getting my master's degree in history right now. I've just started that this semester.
Oh, that goes with writing, really.
Yes, it does. And a lot of the patterns that I study in history end up in my stories. There's a lot of political intrigue in my debut sort of novel trilogy. A lot of that came from my studies of medieval Europe and the medieval East.
Yes, yes. And anyone who studies history knows how true the statement is that truth is stranger than fiction.
Absolutely.
That's
100%.
we can think of all the stuff that's been done, and so that's a trip. That's great, that's wonderful. So well, this is about Vella. Primarily the show's about Vella, so I want to know, when did you hear about Vella, and how did you hear about it?
So having been a KDP author for I guess about a year and a half at that point, when the first announcement I think went out in April of 2021, and I got the email. I got the Amazon email they send out to all of their existing authors talking about Kindle Vella. And I
Okay.
thought that it was a really interesting concept. I knew that serialized content was very popular in lots of different formats. It's not just TV shows, it's web comics, it's it's fan fiction, it's, you know, Wattpad chapters. There's so many serial fiction apps out there that I was very pleased to see that Amazon was trying to throw their hat in that ring. And I knew that it was going to be I knew right off the bat it was going to be a significant opportunity to kind of get in on the ground floor on something that was hopefully going to expand and to move forward sort of as things went along. So pretty much immediately starting in April after I got the email, I started formulating my Kindle Vella concept because I knew I wanted to be one of the first authors on the platform.
Wow, that's wonderful. Where have you been? Where have you been? It's taken so long to get you on the show. So when did you first upload? What and when did you
I uploaded for the very first day, very first week. As soon as Kindle Vella was available to upload, I uploaded my first. I think I uploaded 4 episodes for the first day.
So you were there when it turned on in, like, I think it's July.
Yes, still early July. Yes, I was there from the very beginning.
Woo! All right. And so your villa is called the Ivy Labyrinth.
Yes.
What a title. I love that title. And can you tell me a little bit about it?
Absolutely. So this is a YA fantasy serial fiction project that follows 4 different high school students, 4 different teenagers through the maze that is the Ivy Labyrinth. They live in this Earth-like place that is very much like the modern world, except for the magical presence of various different types of magical creatures and species like fae, naiads, dragon shapeshifters, all this kind of cool stuff. But it's also a world that mortals exist in. And the basic premise is that the Ivy Labyrinth, which is on this island out in the middle of the ocean, has this magical hold on the world and causes all kinds of magical instability and natural disaster phenomenons. And every year they send a group of 4 high school students from anywhere in the world into this labyrinth to complete a set of riddles, puzzles, and complex challenges to try to get to the center of it and break the magical hold that it has on the planet. And so it's my first foray into serial fiction overall, but it's also my first try doing multiple perspective story writing, which has been a really fun process to kind of develop that.
Yes, yes, and it's very, very popular right now.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you this, my dear. Do you write in third person or first person?
I write in first person. Yes.
That is very, very cool. Yeah. And do you like to read mostly in first person?
I do like to read mostly in first person. I think I'm definitely more of a first person writer. I do appreciate a very good third person or very good like third person omniscient, but I think with first person I really like getting inside the individual heads rather than this overarching person that sees sort of everything. I like there to be a little bit of mystery from a person like interpreting somebody else's actions and the way that they receive it can be very different. And that's actually what I really like about writing this from my 4 characters is you get to see, you know, what's happening inside the one character's head as they're doing the action, and then what does it look like on the other side? What are the emotions that the other person is receiving back from them? Because I find that it's completely different based on, you know, a character's history and, you know, what they're bringing to the table. So that's what I like about first person, and what I've enjoyed even more doing it, you know, writing as 4 different voices.
Interesting. Yes, 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 yes. And I just feel like that's kind of, I think first person is probably the more popular right now for fantasy fiction.
I would agree.
Yeah, or for certain types of fantasy fiction.
For certain types of fantasy, for sure.
Right.
And particularly for YA, I would say.
Yes, and anything with romance in it.
Yes.
Anything with romance seems to need to go into the first person to capture that urgency. You know, and so I'm getting sold on this. Okay.
That's good.
I'm to a geezer here. All right. So you know, I've been writing in third person forever, so it's hard to switch over, but I'm starting to get convinced after 70 some odd videos. So that's a pretty cool story. Where did you come up with that idea?
I actually love telling this story because this idea is actually from one of the stories that I wrote in middle school when I was developing my writing style. And as when I got the email about Vella, it was the first story I thought of. It was the first thing I was like, you know what would be perfect? And so I went through my old notebooks and pulled this out of the vault essentially. And I scaled up the ages, changed the story, brought higher stakes to it, redid the world a bit, but it comes from that old middle school idea. And it's actually really funny. I love this story because the first when I first announced that this is what I was doing, one of my old classmates from middle school reached out. I was like, I remember you writing this. Like, I remember reading this. I'm excited to see, how it's changed. So that was a really cool experience. And I really like that I was able to do that. I love being able to pull something, especially because I never thought I would kind of touch that idea again because it was something I left very, very incomplete. And so it's been really fun to kind of start reimagining it and bringing it back to life.
Well, what a trip. I love this story. I love this a lot. And it's kind of comical but it doesn't actually apply to you, but I've said in other videos that as soon as people saw the bonuses, they ran and found any story that they'd ever
Oh,
written.
absolutely.
Scraped it out of the closet, dust that sucker off, and let's put it up on Kindle.
Yes.
But that doesn't apply to you because you actually did the work. You reworked the sucker, and you brought it into now and made it.
And that was well before any of the bonuses were announced. I was in it. I was in it for the storytelling.
So, like I said, that didn't apply to you. But it just reminded me of it simply because going back to the old ideas. But the ideas that you have when you're a kid are often the best. Especially when we're talking about fantasy, especially when we're talking about YA.
Exactly.
You're living at that point.
I was very excited when I realized how well it was going to fit once I did the reworking, but I knew the core idea was solid.
Yeah, it's a very solid idea, especially and look at how many episodes do you have at this point?
Right now I've got 29 out. I'm hoping to get another 2 out this month, and then I'm going to be catching up in October, getting a bunch more out before I get on a more regular schedule. I've had a couple of times over the past year or so, like where I've had to do 2 to 3 month hiatuses, mostly because my academics have ramped up significantly. And now that I'm starting grad school, I've taken about a couple months off from here, and now I'm back into it and getting episodes out more consistently.
Oh, okay. Very cool. Well, so about 29 and wow. Well, does it have the potential to just go like for hundreds of episodes? Is it one of those?
There is an end game. I don't have all of the details of the full plot yet because I'm trying something new with kind of working things as I go and seeing where my characters lead me as I'm writing, which is totally different. I'm very much a planner. I like my outlines. I like detailed outlines. For this one, I've got
answer, you guys. She couldn't cop to it. She just
I can't. I will say I have such high respect for pantser authors because they are I will never understand how they can make these things that are just absolutely amazing out of essentially nothing, which I just find that to be so fantastic. But I'm a planner. I do have an end game for the story. I know the major arcs. I know how many episodes are in those arcs, and I do know how many episodes this thing will be total by the time it finishes. I do have a plan of that, but so I do know the final number, but not necessarily where everything's going to go yet, which can be nerve-wracking for me as a planner, but also it's super fun. It's a very different style of writing.
It is a very different style of writing. Yeah. And usually, well, I don't know. I've seen people who can do both, but have an affinity for one or the other.
Yes.
But, typically you do either one, either
yes.
It's not a both kind of situation. And yeah. And pantser, that's where I live and breathe. So anywho,
well, I've got great respect for what you do, trust me.
Well, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'm coming out. Season 1 of a book is coming out. I have to wrap up some of these other Vellas. We'll see how much respect you should have. Something shouldn't be a 10,000 episode thing. Some things have to end. They have to end, and that's a problem a lot of pantsers have. Is like, how's this going to end?
Fair
What?
enough. Fair enough.
What that? So they've got ending phobia, and so yeah, it just goes on and on. But that might be good in the serial environment too. That might be, especially if you can get some engaging characters.
Yes.
People don't really want things to end.
For sure.
It's like you get pissed off when your favorite shows end. It's like, come on. We watched them put their kids through college. We watched them from the time they were 8 years old, and they put their kids through college. We want to see more.
We want more.
23 seasons just isn't enough. No.
Nope, it's never enough.
No, it's not. And so I think serialization gives you the opportunity to create sweeping epics, the size of which
I agree.
Few people would friggin' tackle, like from those 1970s novels, The Thornburg.
And that's what serial fiction readers expect. It's the short snippets of things that go on for a very, very long time. They want that constant content in a very different way than I think novel readers and other types of readers consume content. So I think that's the sweeping epics. It's definitely an apt description of what Kindle Vella readers are looking for.
Yeah, and I mean, you can just come out with these wonderful volumes of.
Yes.
And that is the one. Like, I have one it's my baby, and it's a 9-book arc. So that's an epic right there.
Absolutely.
So, and I'm very pleased with that one. But I don't think I could do all of them that way. I gotta move on to other things, gotta move on to other ideas and whatnot. And you only have so many hours in a day.
Oh yes, I know it.
In grad school. And so now, how have you done out on Vella with your serial? Are you out there promoting?
I do a little bit of promoting. I try to make sure that my readers are aware whenever new episodes come out, and I have had some luck recently on TikTok and Instagram Reels. I mainly do I do quote videos and I do trope videos. So I do videos that kind of really nail the kind of the key aspects of Ivy Labyrinth. What can you expect if you pick this up? And I've recently had a couple of posts that have had massive surges very recently in viewership. So something is working. I'm not sure I'm not sure what captured these people yet, because Instagram Reels doesn't have the best analytics in terms of where people are watching to and where people are, watching all the way through. But there's definitely an audience for this project, and I just got to make sure I'm getting my episodes out and tapping into that.
Oh, that's great. That's absolutely great. And so I guess you've done all right with your bonuses, yeah?
Yes, for the most part, yes. I'd say somewhere in the middle, somewhere in the mid range, not as high as some folks who have like multiples out and I have a much more consistent posting schedule. But I've been very pleased with my bonus numbers. I've been very happy with that. It helps fund my other book projects. So it's yes. I enjoy. I hope that they continue with that. I imagine they'll at least continue through the end of this year. I apologize for the noise. I unfortunately live next to a highway, so if you can hear that in the background, I do apologize.
No, it's not disruptive or anything.
Well, that's good.
I'd have to really like.
Well, that's good. That's good, because it's very loud on this end.
So, I used to have some friends that lived by a highway, and even though they had those sound barriers built, they had those like concrete walls that go up 8 feet. You still would hear it. And of course, I live in the greater Seattle area. And so it's the main highway going through, which was what they lived by. They called it their river.
This is Houston, Texas.
Houston.
Yeah, I live next to 3 highways stacked on top of each other. As Houston is a maze of overpasses and underpasses. So I've got soundproofing curtains in all the main places, but it's just not quite enough during the day.
Right. But anyway, so yeah, think of it as a river. A river
I
90 miles an hour, bumper
yes,
bumper in
yes,
Houston.
all
Welcome.
day and all night.
Yes. All righty then. So did you do any reading of Vella's while you were?
I have done a bit of reading of Vella's. I haven't done as much as I would like, but there are some people that I regularly keep up with, and or whenever I have a free moment, I'll try out some new people's episodes
Oh, cool.
whenever I see them.
Cool. You have anybody that sticks out that you want to give a shout out to?
Absolutely. I'd love to give a shout out to my author friend LL Nelson. She has a few Vellas out, all of which are fantastic, and I would definitely recommend in the fantasy genre. And then I would also recommend
Wait. We need one name.
one name. All right, let me see which one I would be my favorite of hers. I would say Son of Andrattur would probably be one of the ones that I would recommend. I think she has 3 or 4 out now.
Okay.
So, and then I would also recommend R.G. Roberts and their story, Knight Rider, A Story of the Legacy. That one is really fantastic. I have spent quite a few tokens on that one over the last few months. It's a very strong story. I loved it I was hooked within the first episode, so I would definitely recommend that one as well.
Knight Rider's been shouted out before.
Great.
It's an N, right? Not K.
Yes, it's an N.
All right. Okay, well, so that's great. We'll get those shout outs for you. And so the next question I always ask folks who subject themselves to this is what so you are, we were talking about this before I pushed record, and I think that you are the target demographic reader for Kindle Vella.
Yes.
And I'm interested to know if you were put in charge of the whole platform tomorrow, what would you change to improve it?
All right. I've thought about this question quite a bit because this is something that I feel like where they're headed in the right direction, but not necessarily fast enough. I would start by doing what several other serial fiction platforms do, such as Radish Fiction, and I would open up certain types of promotions to authors on the platform. What Radish Fiction does is that it has different themes for different months, and they have other promos that open up, and you can send your serial fiction story in for consideration. And they put together these essentially email list bundles and these categories on the platform that are on the front page that get reevaluated every few weeks. And I would start with that. I would start by grouping these together and getting authors because I will say, I've been part of one Radish Fiction promo, and it was a huge boost for me, like thousands more views by comparison. And so I would start with that. I would start by changing up how visibility is done. I would refine the tag system, get a bit more consistency in terms. Right now, I feel like there's definitely not a consistency in the types of tags that are available. You can pretty much put in any keywords that you want, which on one hand I think is good, but on the other hand, it makes it very difficult for readers to sort of group together the specific types of things. And I would most likely do that by trope, slow burn romance, enemies to lovers, dragon stories, fae stories, something that's a little bit more consistent across the platform. And then I would be increasing advertising out on the internet entirely. And I'd be pairing that advertising with sort of more comprehensive / easier to understand instructions for what serial fiction is, how it works, and comparing it to things like, comparing it to things like webcomics and TV shows, I think that where the messaging for Kindle Vella is getting lost is that here in the US, it's not quite the same in terms of the types. People are much more likely to, drop a lot of money on a mobile game, sort of in that fashion of, you're paying for upgrades, $1.99 here, $2.99 there. And that's pretty much what this is. It's just so drawing the comparisons, I think, may change sort of the way that readers feel about it. Because I do think readers on Kindle Vella right now in the US really do like the stories. It's the format that they're getting confused by. And then the last thing I would do is it's time to start opening up to international authors and international readers. The market, anybody who knows anything about the serial fiction market knows the majority of the serial fiction market is overseas, and it has been for years, and particularly in Asia. And so there's a market there, and it's time to open up it's time to open up internationally. I do believe that if they've done any kind of market research, which they're Amazon, I definitely believe that they have. I think they know that international is the right way to go. And so I think within the next 6 months, they should be announcing something in that guise. And if they're not, then I don't think this platform will be able to survive in its current format if that is not done. That was a very long answer, but that's what I would do.
No, I loved that answer. That was perfect. And exactly what I was hoping for was more than just, hey, I think we should increase advertising. No, you didn't just say that. You said, hey, I think we should increase advertising. That's how. And I just wish that I'm hoping that somebody with your same vision, actually does get some decision-making power soon. I really
Absolutely. I do think that there's been I think there was some controversy, particularly in the early days of Kindle Vella, like, was Amazon putting the right investment amount into this? Were they putting not just the money, but the time and the research? And I do believe they would not have gone into this type of project without doing that, without putting some of that in. I think it's just not, I think it's a small team. They're not necessarily doing I think there's more to be done than I think that the size of the team can do in a reasonable amount of time. And so I think I think it's simply either more resources for Amazon themselves or reconfiguration of the workload and what needs to be prioritized. I think it's as simple as that.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think if they throw a few more people at it, at least good people, a few brains, a few people making six figures, not some, overworked individual who's, wearing six hats. I think that possibly that might help.
Yes.
Who knows? But well, that pretty much, believe it or not, concludes a Lawless interview. That
Wonderful.
Is all it's pretty much about. We will definitely have links to not only your Vellas, but also any author pages you'd like to put in. Any, if you want us to link to your KV book, I'm happy to do that. Right in the description of this video. And thinking about that, what would you like to say to the folks who are going to click on that because they're like, wow, man, she's just got a lot of good stuff to say. I want to click on this.
I would recommend picking up, I'd recommend starting with the first episodes of Ivy Labyrinth and seeing what you like. If you're interested in my other work, my debut novel, Chasing Fae, is available for free on pretty much all ebook platforms right now. So if you are interested in that, that would be a good way to get an introduction to my work. And I'm always available to chat if you've got any questions, Kindle Vella or writing wise.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for being with me here today, Cady. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for putting up my moment of having a geese moment and saying Sadie after I asked.
It's totally fine.
Ask the question. Anyway. All right, everybody. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this. It's been a lot of fun to make, and keep coming back here for more new content all the time. And this is Azrielle Lawless. We'll see you out there.